Hey guys, this is Eddie from E11 World, and today I'm doing part 3 of this photography workflow series I've been doing. And so today is all about editing the photos. So if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, I talked about backing up your photos, so backup solutions, different types, and all these things in part 1. Part 2 was all about organizing your photos, selecting which ones to edit, how to actually get to choosing only the ones that you want to edit and not wasting all this time, editing everything. So really, really good videos. I think you should have a look at both of these before watching this one. So just want to let you guys know, I've done this video clip for my brother a while ago. So if you'd like to watch it and, tell us what you think, we'd really appreciate it. So it's a video clip in Assyrian language. And I did this a while back in using my Canon 60D and a couple of lenses. So anyways, check it out. Let me know what you think. All right. So for example, this is one photo from a shoot that I did last week. And or probably if you're watching this a few weeks from now or a year later, and it's based on the release of this video. So to get to something like this, we're going to look at what you can do, you can get to many different scenarios of different pictures. But I'll talk about the different things that you can do, basic color corrections and edits that you should follow, I guess. I've basically got my photo down, my photos to the last 50 something, whatever that, from 200, 300 and so on. And these are the basic things I do to every photo. And I'm just trying to show you here my history. So after importing, enable lens profile, white balance, synchronized settings, which I synced from another photo, but I'll go into that also. And then auto tune, I liked how that looked, I guess. Probably tweak some more things after and so on. So the first thing I do is generally actually do the white balance, but I guess in this case I wanted to go into the lens correction, enable lens profile. So when you go to this, and you can actually do all the stuff from here, but when you go to here, you can select which Canon make. In my case, it's Canon, but sometimes it doesn't actually detect the lens. For example, my Tokina 1116, it doesn't even detect it. But the nice thing is, once I actually just hit Tokina, it actually knows which lens I used. So really nice. One thing I always do to all photos, it just fixes some things here and there. And then you can go to remove chromatic aberration. Some things I don't really want. Like I know there's some things here, but anyway, actually let's talk about this photo because that's the one I showed you in a second, or a second ago. So again, use the same lens here. Chromatic aberration, if I wanted to remove it. In this case, I didn't bother with it. And then some other things that you can change, your transformation tools here and whatnot. So that's the very first thing. Then I go back to the basic if I don't do the white balance. For example, he's wearing a white shirt, I do that first. Okay, well, you get this message. If it's too bright, if there's like a really, really bright highlight that it knows that, hey, this is, I can't really select from it. But for example, I chose this area of his shirt and now it just changed the values here. And let me undo, and you can see the difference. Okay, so sometimes you don't have to actually do this. You might like how it looks already and, just go with that. You can also use auto and other settings, but this is kind of what I do. The next thing is cropping. For example, if the photo was, not right, like, this person here, for example, and something here else, I don't really want in the photo, but in this case, I might actually jump into like Photoshop to do it. I mean, there is some of these tools here, like a clone and other tools, but I just don't, Photoshop is just so much easier. Anyways, that's for another day, probably another tutorial. So we'll just continue on with this. Things I do generally is just I hit the auto. Let me actually just undo all of this stuff. Double clicking on this stuff here, just to undo everything. Okay, so this is how it would come out minus the white balance and lens correction. So hit auto, see what you get. Most of the time, I'm actually pretty happy with what I get from auto, but then, generally exposure gets either too much or too little, and that's where I go in and adjust things. So for example, here I might want more blacks, just nicer, darker. I don't really want too many shadows. Like, see how it changes this here too much? Like, I don't want that. So I actually, in this case, I want to bring it down. This highlight might be a little too much, so I'm going to bring that down, but not too much. I still like it, but just a little bit less. And then I've added some clarity here just to, get sharpening happening in some of these details. I'm always a fan of clarity, so if you didn't know, now you know. You know what song that is. All right. Jump into tone curve. I actually don't use this too much in Lightroom, but it is nice, especially having this here. So let's say, for example, if I want to drag down, click and drag down, see how that just darkened things? And it's kind of the same thing. You saw what happened here. It's kind of like dragging here and then dropping this down. So there's just more ways for you to fine tune your photo. And again, it's really nice. I just don't really use it too much. I use curves more in Photoshop. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. And you know what? I should kind of just go back to all this stuff here. So you could see what the photo looked like before. Actually, let me go back here. This is before the crop. I just didn't think this needed to be there. I wanted the focus to be on the singer. So that's where I did the crop. Okay, and then right here. And then auto tone, this is what it did. Just more highlight, I guess. Exposure, change it back down. And then this is where I did some clarity. And then I was just doing more stuff here. So you can see all this stuff is actually in your history, which is really nice. I love this about Lightroom. It just keeps everything there. Now, you should back up your Lightroom catalog. I forgot to mention this in the previous videos. Make sure you back it up. The way I've set this to back up, because things do go wrong, and you could lose all your catalog settings and all these things. So it's a real mess when you lose the catalog. Make sure, I can't stress this enough, back up your catalog. Okay? So the way I do this is I back it up to my Google Drive folder on my computer, and that gets automatically backed up to my Google Drive. Now, the catch is I have, over 40,000 photos or whatever, and my library, my backup is roughly 1 point something gig, so 1.3 or whatever. Now, 15 gigs from Google Drive is what you get by default for free. It's great. It's enough for this. So I use it. Generally, I go back after a month or so, every 3 to 4 backups, and I just delete things from my folder, which syncs that to the Google Drive, and it deletes it from there as well. And that way you don't run out of space from that 15 gig, or if you're using Dropbox or other services, same thing. I just prefer how Google Drive works because I have more than one account anyway. So I've selected just one account for this specifically, so I know I'm never going to actually use it for anything else. And it works great. I know it's backed up. You can use something like SyncToy or CrashPlan service, the actual software to back it up to another place on your drive. In this case, it's already backed up when I use my Lightroom to back it up to another drive on my computer, which is the folder that uses Google Drive as well. So now it's 2 backups just using this one step. I'm just going along here. HSL, really, really, really love this tool, especially this right here. So you click this, and for example, I'm set to luminance right now. You can change it, hue, saturation, or all. For example, if I think this is too bright, I just select it and lower. And you know what? Sorry, I didn't select it first. No, it's not doing it. Well, there you go. Okay, so somehow it's not doing it to this, but yeah, you can just click and drag and see how that just changed like the whole mood of the photo. So again, this has got its uses, and in this case, I would actually just go and turn down the saturation. I don't like how it's just too saturated, like my blues and purples. So I turned that down a little bit, and now we're kind of getting closer to what this photo looked like. Now, on top of this stuff, you can apply all these different effects. For example, or not, sorry, effects. What I meant is, what do you call them? Presets. Yeah, so you can use, like, for example, this muted filter, which is from 1:1. And there's so many places you can get free stuff, and you can make your own, you create your own users presets, which I do as well. This is another nice one. For example, you can have like so many different looks into like one photo, and that's where you can actually waste so much time in this last step where you're just doing the final little bits. It's all about taste. Doesn't matter if there's too much of a flare here, not enough flare. It's all personal preference. If it looks great, it could look great 200 ways in here. You know, this already like, hey, this looks really good. This looks nice. This looks really good. There's so many ways. You know, pick something that you're happy with. Generally for these things, I pick stuff that I scatter things around. It depends on the type of event anyway. If it's a wedding, I try to just stay, you know, neutral. Something like this, I go creative more. It's a concert, you know, go all out. You can see how it changed all these things. And then, you know, if you want to go black and white and then go on from here, you can either modify the sliders or actually, again, use this tool to just change stuff. So, you know, brightness, lower it, and whatever, right? There's, again, so many ways. And you can go auto. So, auto does wonderful things. You know, you'd be surprised. So, anyways, moving on. Detail. So, and you can actually see some, I forgot to mention, like, you know, this little thing here, you can turn it on and off, and you can see what's the before and after, right? Just there's nothing for the basic, which is too bad. I would like that, you know, to be here as well. Noise reduction. If it's at night, definitely going to have some noise depending on your gear. I think 90% of people will have noise in their photos. You know, you bump up your ISO 640. In this case, I think I was using 1250 actually. Yeah, there it is. So this is ISO 3.5 50 mil at 1250. So on my Canon, I know there are certain different ISOs that I can go up to and still have okay noise. And, you know, let me just zoom in, for example. You could see like, you know, and this is where I was talking about the 1:1. You saw how slow that loaded and still does that anyway. So there is still a, you know, a lot of noise, but let me turn this down and you can see how much more noise there is. So this actually does really good. And again, there is third-party software that fixes a lot of these things, you know, in Photoshop and even for Lightroom probably. But generally, I do these things in Photoshop. Like Topaz Adjust has some really nice tools, and I can't remember. But anyways, I'll probably put the links in the description for some plugins that you can buy. I generally just, you know, I think this is okay, and I like it enough. Doesn't bother me. So, you know, there's a bit more here because I've sharpened. This is actually a little bit too much. This here is not as much, and you could kind of see it up there, but that's more of like the effect I was going for. I think I believe I added some grain, but not everywhere. This is kind of like where the vignette overlaps. Anyways, oh, one thing I should mention just quickly: these logos here is from like the, you know, this is from the actual center, the community center. And this is the production company that brought these singers and the event planning, basically. So I was dealing with these people, and they were great. Shout out to you, Aki. Love your stuff, man. And yeah, let's keep this happening. So anyways, these logos, just to mention, I'm not always keen on having logos like watermarks in there, but clients want these things. And I was actually trying to find software that did 2-in-1 because I wouldn't have to re-export twice and lose more quality as JPEGs. But the way to get around that in Lightroom anyways is export the TIFFs with one logo and then export it again to JPEG or whatever the final destination is, adding the other logo in there. So yeah, too bad. There might have been one software that does too, but not really how I wanted. So yeah, back to this. Let's say I wanted to sharpen this photo after all this noise, because, you know, you do lose a lot of detail, and you can use color or luminance, whichever one you want to reduce noise with. Some people use color more. I tend to kind of use luminance. But anyway, this masking here, if you hit Alt on your keyboard, again, this is for PC users. Mac, I'm guessing it's Option. Probably Option. Anyways, if you hold Alt and then drag, you could see where the sharpening is happening. So if I for example go 0, it's going to sharpen every single thing. That's why it's white. If I go all the way here, you're going to be sharpening just very little things, like all the lines or whatever. So I kind of tend to push it like, you know, anything over 30 generally, and then into like, you know, 70 or, because more than that, it's not, you know, you still want to have a lot of stuff sharpened. But in this case, something like 50 would be okay. I don't really want all these things sharpened anyway, but in this case, let's say 71 or something like that. Because I don't care with the flare. I don't want that to get sharpened. And in this case, I can go further or less and look at the person's face, for example, here. maybe sharp, less sharp, right? And nothing else gets distorted, or not distorted, sorry, nothing else gets sharpened. So you get these like things where it tells you like, hey, this is happening too much or whatever. But you know, again, it's all about taste. Moving on, this is again the stuff I do, stuff I like to look at for each photo, and some things I'll tweak from photo to photo. Color correction, we talked about this already, or sorry, lens correction. Effects, and generally I don't use too much here, more just like, a bit of vignetting or something like that. You can midpoint here, roundness on all these different settings. But dehaze is another nice feature that Adobe recently added, I think a year ago, maybe less. So let's say there's too much of this haze from this light going on, and you can just change that, like, bring it down or something. And again, you know what, let me just turn down this vignette so you can see only the effects of this. So on or off, on. So you could see it actually changes around everywhere. So it's a nice feature to have. I don't use it too much as well, but again, let's say something like this is what I would go for. And I don't really even go there, because that's just for another day. So some things, again, like this right here, I didn't even change. Even this, for example, like this looks good, this looks good. There's, again, like I said, there's all personal preference. But stuff I would go further with is like actually editing these things, like, removing these people, maybe keeping the speaker here, just removing the person, removing some of these, I would call imperfections, probably like cropping even more, or just removing some of these things, like this person here, it's drawing a little bit of attention, but not too much. And that's where I would either go with a stronger vignette, or I would add something like, this filter here, for example, if I just add it and then tone down the, well, not too much exposure, just a little bit. And let's see, less shadows, something like that. Maybe a bit more stuff, but for now, that's good enough. So you can see before and after. And that just brings your attention more towards the subject that you want. Okay, and again, there's more tools here, like, let's just go here. If I want to just take this person out, I would go something like this. And then you can see how slow this is. That's why I prefer Photoshop. But anyway, you can like move this here, and it tells you which it thinks it would like match better. But, this is, I'm just doing it real quick. It's not even looking good. But you could see it works okay. You can get more of these points, and before you can even draw with it. It looks like a girl actually somehow. But I do like Photoshop for these things, so I wouldn't even bother. These are the things I do for photos when I edit them. All the basic stuff I talked about, and then going down this whole list of corrections and fixes that you can, modifications, I guess you would call it, to the photo. I think this concludes my series, and if you guys want to see anything like a continuation of this video series, let me know in the comments below. If you liked it, also let me know. You should like the video. Hit that like button, please. Hit it. Subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. Let me know if you want to see more of this stuff. I'm not like a top of the line pro photographer. I just do this. I like photography. I like video. You can see from my channel, I do everything. Like, I've been doing 3D lately. I do videos. I'm a web designer by default. Like, I actually design and build websites. That's my daily stuff. This is all kind of extra. I DJ also, play percussion, drums, bit of piano, keyboard, and guitar. So yeah, kind of everything and everywhere. That's why I'm E11 World Multimedia Design and Development. So anyways, I hope you guys like this again, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. So cheers for now, and I'll see you later. Peace. Thought you were done, eh? That's the Canadian, eh? All right. Well, I did forget a couple of things that I still wanted to mention. I think they are really valuable. 3 videos here, which will help you quite a bit, actually, understand different things in photos, and what way you can actually, how you would approach your editing. So they really helped me a lot. This is from the Photoshop training channel. Really, really good video. color correction and color matching. This helped me quite a bit, like just understand how some of these things work and, you know, how to fix things. Again, it doesn't have to be Lightroom specifically, but just in general, really, really good knowledge. So, you know, this person walks through all this stuff. And yeah, just, you should really check it out. Okay. So I'll leave the links in the description for this one. And next one is from Computer Arts, an older video, not the greatest quality, it's like 480, I think, but also really good for color matching, matching the tones specifically. So, you know, he's going from this color to this color, and I'll just forward to kind of show you how far he gets here. But really, really good video. Again, just, you should really check this out. Short one, this is not too long either. Actually, yeah, this is kind of long, but still really, really good. Probably as long as my video here. And the next one is from Flern. So really good videos, this that they always output. But this one specifically, I found out about this, and you know, a lot of things changed for me. I really was like, whoa, this is really, really good stuff. So frequency separation, make sure you check this out. Yes, it's Photoshop, but these are the kind of things that will take your photos to the next level, will help you quite a bit understand how to approach. I think this is the best way I could say it, is how to approach editing your photos and taking them to that final step. Like for me, these are things that are just, you know, extra. Like, you know, this is more like, oh yeah, I love this movie and I want to find that look and match it right here. This is it. And this is for retaining all this skin texture, but cleaning up all the imperfections, I guess you would call them, right? Things that shouldn't be there. Any temporary things, not permanent things. Like, you know, if you had a beauty mark, you know, you don't want to remove that from the person because that just, it's going to look fake. Color correction, this is just in general, I think, you know, going from like A to B, just 9-day difference. I think this one is probably more for beginners, but just the stuff he talks about in the beginning is also really helpful. There's some nice tips in here. Just wanted to mention this and shout out to all these channels. I think you should subscribe to them. I do as well. Again, I'm in incognito mode here, just, you know, changing some of the stuff that you shouldn't be seeing. So anyways, thank you guys for watching again. And this has been Eddie from E11 World in my photography workflow series. Check out part 1 and part 2 if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers. See you later.